stranger to playing on a big stage like this, but certainly, you know, top 8 at Worlds this year. His first top 8 finish since 2015 in the seniors division, but I'm certain he is hungry for more.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, the entire Latin American community is ready for more as we get ready to jump into team preview here. Sam Pandelis on the left using Garchomp, Ninetales in its Alolan form, Arcanine, Mandibuzz, Xurkitree, and Tapu Lele. Sebastian running a rain team. It looks like Sam is already locked in. Both players are already locked in. They know. They know what they want. Sebastian, just to read it off, Golduck, Politoed, Tapu Koko, Buzzwole, Klefki, and Muk.
Certainly an interesting matchup. You know, I was hoping they'd take a little bit more time so we could talk about, you know, the presence of the Xurkitree on Sam's side of the field and how Sebastian's team really is weak to that electric-type Pokemon, doesn't have a great answer for it. And the fact that he brought his own Tapu Koko to potentially power up the Xurkitree could spell trouble for him.
Yeah, but luckily for Sebastian, that Tapu Lele looks like it's going to help out Sebastian with his electric-type weakness. Going to go ahead and bring out the Psychic Terrain, and Golduck right now is not going to be functioning in the rain mode that it actually really enjoys operating in.
Yeah, it's certainly a very interesting lead. Golduck, usually one of those Pokemon you see with rain on the field, either the rain setter, in this case Politoed, being led first with Golduck switching in, or maybe being sent out after a knockout. In this case, it's just going to jump onto the field immediately. So Sebastian could be looking to possibly switch out that Tapu Koko for the Politoed this turn, get that rain up, so Golduck will be in a better spot next turn. But like I was saying earlier, I think he really has to start figuring out how is he going to address this Xurkitree. If Xurkitree is left unchecked, it can really use its electric typing, use those electric type moves to go through a lot of the Pokemon on Sebastian's team. So we'll have to see how this plays out.
Tapu Koko now going for that Volt Switch, going to hit that Tapu Lele, revealing that Life Orb, and going to go ahead and allow Sebastian to switch in a Pokemon to try to combat and, you know, maintain his board position, as we do have the Politoed hit the field right now. Going to go ahead and bring the Drizzle. It's not going to boost the way Golduck moves this turn just yet, but it will boost any water type attacks as Xurkitree, outspeeds that Golduck, goes for a Thunderbolt, hits that Golduck for massive damage, and of course here comes the problem with Ultra Beast, because now it's going to go ahead and get a special attack boost, and that's going to make it so much harder to deal with as Tapu Lele using its turn to go for a Calm Mind, and you can see Sebastian's frustration right there. He didn't think that Xurkitree would outspeed that Golduck, and now Sebastian's going to know it's going to be important to have Politoed out on the field with Golduck to get that speed boost.
Definitely. That Xurkitree freeing up an opportunity for the Tapu Lele to use Calm Mind. And I think the most interesting part of Tapu Lele deciding to go for more of a slower strategy here is the possibility that it might not rely as much on the Psychic Terrain moving forwards. With the Muk on the field, you know that Sebastian does not want to send back that Tapu Koko, further powering up that Xurkitree. So he's sort of forced himself into a tough spot here. Politoed, not known to be the most offensive Pokemon, usually likes to run more supportive moves, possibly with a Perish Song. I think Scald is probably the most powerful water type move you'll see on it normally. Not going to be able to knock out any of the Pokemon on Sam's side of the field. Muk is only going to be able to target one of those Pokemon, and if Xurkitree decides to protect itself this turn and Sebastian targets into it, Tapu Lele free to maybe get another Calm Mind in, or maybe start attacking. Really a great spot for Sam to be in right now, but instead Xurkitree capitalizing on that Beast Boost immediately.
Yep, and that Dazzling Gleam connects on both Pokemon. Here's a Moonblast boosted by that Calm Mind from earlier. Muk hangs on, goes ahead and munches away on a berry to heal back. Thanks to that Gluttony ability, it is going to be the Figgy Berry. Politoed now using Scald on the Muk itself. Going to go ahead and burn itself. Not going to reveal much more information as Muk uses Gunk Shot. That is going to be key information to know. I think at that point right there, Sebastian was really expecting his Politoed to get KO'd and really just might be forfeiting this game.
You know, when you see your own Pokemon attack a Pokemon on the side, there's usually one of two things that could be happening. One, maybe you're looking to activate a berry to try and get some health back so it wasn't as detrimental of a turn, or maybe it was a misclick, or maybe you're just sort of throwing in the game and trying to see what, you know, what else you can learn. I think in this case, it might have been an attempt to activate that berry on the Muk. We know it has the Gluttony ability, so once Muk is below half its health, it can eat that and heal up. up, but given the fact that Sebastian just clicked in the forfeit, you know, I don't think that turn really, or that game went as he wanted it to. He didn't want to lose that Golduck early on, and now he's really forced himself into a tough spot.
Yeah.
He has to address the threat of the circuitry, possibly not even rely on rain going into this game too. He needs to win to keep his tournament dream alive.
Yeah, and you know, the problem really came down to the fact that that Politoed wasn't on the field to open up the game. Golduck wasn't able to outspeed that Circuitry, and of course that gave Circuitry that big beast boost. And really, Sebas did not expect to go far after he lost Golduck and allowed Circuitry to get that beast boost up. And really, Sebas just kind of forfeiting that game once he scalded his own muck. Yeah, that could be a possibility to go for a way to activate the berry, but at the same time, if you're scalding your own muck, that's just such a huge risk because you might burn it, which happened.
Yeah, and I don't think that burn was really according to plan.
That allowed the Tapu Lele to survive, and Sam Pandelis, of course, locking in his team yet again. He is ready to go. He has been playing exceptionally well all season.
I think he's prepared for this matchup, to say the least. I doubt we'll see Sebastian lead that Golduck without its friend, the Politoed, this time around. I think the mind games will start if we see that Golduck again on the field alongside the Politoed. Will Sebastian decide to target down that Circuitry right away? Will he maybe try to play a little bit safer? It's going to be up to Sam as a result to sort of set the pace of this game. If Sam decides to play very offensive, as we saw the last game, you know, and Sebastian doesn't respond to that, it could sort of be a very quick game. But on the other hand, you could just send something completely different out onto the field.
Yep, Circuitry and Tapu Lele, the exact same leads for Sam here, as Sebastian leads with Buzzwole and Tapu Koko. Changing out that Golduck for that Buzzwole, it will be heavily threatened by that Tapu Lele. So it's interesting, but Buzzwole can also threaten with a possible Poison Jab.
Buzzwole could threaten with a Poison Jab. I think I'm more curious to see if this Buzzwole could potentially survive a Psychic Terrain boosted Psychic from this Tapu Lele. Seeing the Calm Mind to me implies that this Tapu Lele might not be as offensively invested as other Tapu Lele can be. So maybe it needs those Calm Minds to be able to start dealing the damage to get those knockouts. And Buzzwole is certainly a very bulky Pokemon. A lot of trainers like to run them with maybe a Pinch Berry or maybe an Assault Vest too to sort of boost that. So that being said, if the Tapu Koko decides to attack maybe that Circuitry to start chipping away at its health and the Buzzwole is able to survive for one turn, we could see a much different outcome.
Tapu Lele now not wanting to take any risk, protects itself as Tapu Koko over on Sebastian's side. Goes for a Dazzling Gleam, gonna hit that Circuitry for good damage right there, a little bit under 50%, as again Tapu Koko takes Life Orb Recall, but here it is, the Tail Glow, gonna go ahead and boost Circuitry's attack stat by 3 stages drastically, and Buzzwole goes for a superpower here, hits that Circuitry. That is another KO and big knockout, not letting Sam get that Circuitry up to its full potential.
And that's what Sebastian exactly needed to do after that game 1. If he has the Politoed and the Golduck in the back, he still has to worry about some of the other Pokemon present on Sam's team. You know, if he brought that Ninetales, the Hail could easily get rid of the Swift Swim speed boost that the Golduck really requires to function well. For now, sending in the Garchomp could be an indication that there is that Ninetales in the back, and that's just a piece of information that he's not willing to give up yet.
Yeah, and this Garchomp actually has a lot more HP than normal Garchomps do, maybe signifying that Sam has invested a little bit more bulk into that Garchomp as well, so that's interesting to note.
Definitely interesting to note. We know the Tapu Koko has the Life Orb item. We could be seeing a second Dazzling Gleam here, but given Garchomp's higher defenses, I don't think it's anything Sam needs to worry about quite yet. More importantly, I think he needs to look at the Buzzwole. We saw the Buzzwole use the superpower to knock out the Circuitry. That means its defense has been lowered. So if Garchomp can just hit it with an attack, there's a really good chance that alongside the Tapu Lele, it'll get knocked out.
Ooh, Garchomp here using Sword Stance. Tapu Lele is threatening that Buzzwole right now, but if Buzzwole hangs on, oh, Buzzwole outspeeds the Tapu Lele, goes for a Poison Jab right here, connecting on that Tapu Lele, big damage, but Tapu Lele hangs on, gonna go ahead and eat its berry, gonna heal back up 50% of its health, thanks to what I believe is that Wiki Berry right there, and now Tapu Lele going for a Moonblast, gonna hit into that Buzzwole slot, but Buzzwole is bulky, it hangs on. So, well, right now that Tapu Koko over on Sebastian's side, threatening that Garchomp.
Let's take a step back, though. That Tapu Lele used Moonblast to attack the Buzzwole with the Psychic Terrain up. That's something that is very interesting. Normally, you would want to use maybe the Psychic to benefit from the same type attack bonus and the Psychic Terrain. I think there's a piece of information here that Sam is not ready to give up to Sebastian.
Yep, and Garchomp here protecting, not wanting to get KO'd just yet, maybe allowing Sam to get better board position here. Tapu Koko going for the Dazzling Gleam again, bring Tapu Lele down to what should be Poison Jab range right here. And Sebastian Escalante, just like that, exerting so much pressure over Sam. And that gets a KO. And now Sebastian Escalante is 2 knockouts away from tying up this series as Buzzwole gets yet another Beast Boost. So now it is at 1 stage after that first superpower drop.
Yeah, so that Buzzwole really doing an amazing job. It was the exact adjustment that Sebastian needed for this battle, and now Sam forced to reveal that it was the Ninetales in the back of his party. So if Sebastian does have that Politoed with him alongside the Golduck, all he really has to do is wait for one of these Pokemon out on the field to be knocked out. He gets the safe switch in for that Politoed. He'll get the rain set up so that when Golduck takes the field, it'll be the fastest thing there, and it'll be able to, you know, attack with knowing that it won't have to worry as much about that Swords Dance boosted Garchomp. And that's even assuming it's able to survive the turn. We do still have the Tapu Koko. It does have Dazzling Gleam.
Double protect right there from that Garchomp, possibly setting up a chance for Sam to take care of this Tapu Koko over on Sebastian's side. The Dazzling Gleam comes out, hits that Ninetales, breaking any possible focus sash right here. Again, more life or recoil as Ninetales slowing things down a little bit, just chilling out, just going for an icy win here. Gonna slow things down. Buzzwole speed is gonna drop. Tapu Koko speed is gonna drop. If Buzzwole can get rid of that Ninetales, that's an easy fix though, because Sebastian can just switch out that Tapu Koko and you know, reset that speed for later on. And here it is, the Poison Jab connects on a Ninetales. That is enough to get the KO. And even though Sam kind of trying to pull out all the stops, Sebastian also has many outs.
Definitely. That Icy Wind was a great play alongside the double protect, knowing that Garchomp would be the fastest thing on the field after that speed drop, but unfortunately it just was not enough. Buzzwole able to knock out that Ninetales. He really needed both of those Pokemon out on the field to give him a chance of winning this game, but it looks like Sebastian has gone from essentially losing with all of Sam's Pokemon remaining on the field, has gone on to win this game 4-0. It's going to be a very interesting game 3.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if you heard that, Gabby, but the crowd is going wild, cheering for Sebastian here. There is no switch at all. Garchomp just going to go for an attack here, hitting that Buzzwole and that Tapu Koko, most likely signifying that Sebastian has something in the back anyways that can clean up against this Garchomp. Maybe it's that Politoed and that Golduck combo. So
but by not clicking in the forfeit here, Sam has allowed himself to gain that piece of information.
Yeah, it's good information to have.
It's really good information to have when you're going into game 3 of top 8. You know you have to win the final game to move on to top 4. If you can find out what 4 Pokemon your opponent brought to stop the Xurkitree that really lost them the previous game, that is something you definitely want to have in your utility belt to move forward.
And you know, going into game 3, you always want to know what your opponent's strategy just was. You don't want to go in blind, and here it is, that Golduck with that Swift Swim ability. Now finally operating the way it wants, and Sam got all the information he wants. It looks like he's about to click it in as a forfeit here, and it looks like we're about to go to game 3 here in this top 8 match between Sebastian Escalante of Argentina versus Sam Pandelis. Sam Pandelis, of course, Australia's last hope here at the World Championships. You know, coming from a top 16 finish, moving up to a top 8 finish, wants to add more to this finish though. Doesn't want to stop at just the top 8, and neither does Sebastian.
Well, if he doesn't want to stop, it's time to take a moment, maybe take a couple of deep breaths and figure out what to do with this next game. I think Sebastian's adjustment there was perfect. The Tapu Koko and Buzzwole combination did a great job of threatening Sam's leads for both that past game, that Xurkitree, and that Tapu Lele. But you have to wonder, will Sebastian again target that Xurkitree as aggressively as he did in this game too? If you're in Sam's spot, I think you might want to think about changing things up a bit, maybe saving the Xurkitree for the back of your party, knowing that it's at that point in time where this Politoed and the Golduck are more likely to appear. I gotta admire Sam's confidence though, hardly taking any time to pick his Pokemon. Sebastian, you know, definitely thinking through this matchup a bit more. It makes me wonder how much Sam has prepared for this kind of game going into the World Championships.
To be fair, Gabby, Sam took like 5 seconds the first game. He took 10 seconds the second game, and this third game, he actually waited for 15 seconds. So
all right,
putting a little bit more
fair.
thought into each game, and Sebastian's still struggling to figure out what he wants to do. You know, you got to be scared, right? Like, Sam lost that last game. He's probably going to make some adjustments. Sebastian doesn't want to fall victim to just, you know, staying stagnant. He wants to try to stay one step ahead of Sam, and that's going to come down to whether or not any adjustments need to be made. Obviously, you know, Golduck operating in the rain much better than Golduck not operating in the rain. Again, that's really good information to have. You know, if that circuitry is out on the field, you have to watch out because that Golduck is a sitting duck.
Nice. I see what you did there.
I didn't, that just came out naturally.
But if you're Sebastian, one thing you do have to keep in mind, I think, is that you might not want to change up the Pokemon. I think those Pokemon really did have the tools he wants. I think it's more going to come down to his play style and how he adjusts to whatever Sam brings to this game. That Buzzwole really has a lot of interesting options. We saw that Superpower, we saw that Poison Jab. I'm sure it must have a couple other tricks up its sleeve. And if you're going to reveal those tricks, why not in Game 3 of the top 8 at the World Championship?
And here we go. Give it up for both of these players here at the top 8. Sebastian Escalante leading with Buzzwole and Tapu Koko. No adjustments quite yet, whereas Sam Pandelis running Tapu Lele and Mandibuzz. Changing up a little bit, not wanting to sacrifice the circuitry just yet. Again, give it up for both these players as Mandibuzz's Psychic Seed is going to boost its special defense.
So Mandibuzz is a very interesting adjustment, and I think it's another great way to sort of counteract the Swift Swim that the Golduck has potentially lurking in the back of Sebastian's party. We know that Tailwind will double the speed of Sam's Pokemon for a turn, and if Sebastian can't stop that from being set up, it's definitely something he has to consider moving forwards.
Oh boy, this could be the end for Tapu Lele here because that Volt Switch connected onto that Tapu Lele does a little bit of damage to it, and Buzzwole can just easily follow up with a possible Poison Jab. Politoed comes in now, gonna go ahead and bring that Drizzle, bring the rain, kind of, you know, maybe set up for a Golduck in the back now as it looks like the Buzzwole goes for the Poison Jab here, gonna connect onto Tapu Lele. It's gonna be close. Is enough to KO? It is not!
Oh!
Tapu Lele hangs on and eats away at its Wiki Berry again. So a huge upset right there to not get that KO. Tapu Lele, of course, can easily go for the Calm Mind, but now Mandibuzz can also go for a Tailwind to be able to allow the Tapu Lele to outspeed both Pokemon over on Sebastian's side. So upsetting that KO whiffed.
Definitely, that Buzzwole really wanted to knock out that Tapu Lele before it had a chance to take advantage of the Tailwind that Mandibuzz provided. That being said, I don't think the game is over quite yet. That Tailwind has been brought out so early on. Sebastian certainly has the opportunity here to stall it out. I'm more concerned about the fact that he sent out the Politoed. If Sam has that Ninetales in the back, he can remove the rain from the field whenever he decides he needs to, or just knock out that Politoed so that when the rain does run out, Golduck is unfortunately going to be out of luck and stuck being slower than all the other Pokemon on the field.
And Politoed now forced with a draw, going to maintain that weather for just a little bit later on. Golduck is a Pokemon that can deal with that Tailwind because that Swift Swim matches that speed boost as Tapu Lele again going for a Moonblast on that Buzzwole. Buzzwole hangs on with just a sliver of health. It is a special attack drop, not going to matter too much. Mandibuzz going for a taunt. This opens up the door here for Sebastian with the Buzzwole going for a Poison Jab here. Gonna hit that Tapu Lele. Is Tapu Lele gonna hang on? Tapu Lele hangs on again with 7 hit points, but now Golduck is out on the field. At least Sebastian can kind of manage the Tailwind a little bit better.
He can manage the Tailwind a little bit better, but that Buzzwole is at risk of getting knocked out by whatever Mandibuzz can throw at it. So really, Sebastian is forced to make a tough choice here. Does he want to try and knock out the Tapu Lele before it knocks out, or before it does a ton of damage to that Golduck? Does he want to maybe try and get some damage down on that Mandibuzz so it's unable to use Tailwind a second time? It's a really tough choice for him to make, and it all depends on how he plans on playing playing this game moving forwards. We still have to worry about that Ninetales in the back. It's very possible that Hale could come out onto the field really any turn now to get rid of Golduck's speed boost and just put Sebastian into a really tough spot.
Yep, and Buzzwole now switching out, going to save it for just a little bit later. Politoed going to come back in to possibly take whatever that Mana Buzz throws on it, saving it for later. Again, that Golduck Scald connects onto that Tapu Lele and gets the KO. So now Mana Buzz going for that foul play, not going to hit too much because Politoed does not have a very strong physical attack stat.
Politoed does not, but it's standing out on the field. Sam could easily send in that Ninetales, but instead reveals that he's brought the Xurkitree. So with the Xurkitree on the field, we know that it will outspeed the Golduck with the Tailwind up. So Sebastian has to buy himself time. He needs to determine a way to make it so the Golduck will eventually outspeed that Xurkitree so he can stop it from using Thunderbolt to knock out the Politoed, to knock out the Golduck. It's a really tough spot for him to be in. Meanwhile, Sam, we've already seen the tail glow. If he thinks that Sebastian is going to play it safe, why not boost your special attack a few stages, take advantage of the downtime, if you will, and make it that much harder for Sebastian to handle it moving forwards. It's a really awesome Pokemon for Sam to have out on the field right now, and it's something that all Rain users really have to be terrified of.
Absolutely, and here we go. Sebastian withdrawing that Politoed, gonna switch in Buzzwole now. Buzzwole, of course, already on the last leg of its life. It has 4 legs, it's on the last one. And Xurkitree now going for a Thunderbolt in that Golduck. Does outspeed that Golduck. Remember, that Xurkitree was faster than that Golduck under Tailwind. It's still going to be faster. Xurkitree getting a Beast Boost again, and this is where things can possibly go downhill as Mana Buzz using Taunt. And oh boy, that's tough to lose your sweeper right there. The Tailwind does peter out, which is nice, but at the same time, well, the Buzzwole does outspeed the Xurkitree, but of course Xurkitree can also just protect.
And Tapu Koko coming back out onto the field is going to boost those electric attacks from that Xurkitree even further. I think Sebastian was hoping that Sam might predict that he would protect his Golduck that turn so that maybe he could use a powerful move. We haven't seen any Z moves on Sebastian's side of the field, so one can only assume there might have been the Hydro Vortex lurking around to knock out that Xurkitree, but instead, Xurkitree just knocks out the Golduck itself.
Yep, and Tapu Koko now going for a very powerful Thunder. Xurkitree outspeeding the Buzzwole here, going to go for a Tailwind, going to get the KO on that Buzzwole, and Tapu Koko now almost on the last leg of its life as well. And Xurkitree again gets another speed boost, and now that's a lot of boost, and Mana Buzz going for a Tailwind now. This might be it for Sebastian Escalante as the rain stops. The Tailwind is going to be so big and so important for this Xurkitree to be able to outspeed since it's such a middling speed Pokemon.
This is what Ultra Beasts do best. You know, that Beast Boost ability is so terrifying. After you're able to get one knockout, your attacks just start dealing more and more damage. You can possibly, you know, keep getting more knockouts as a result and keep raising your strength. We've seen that Tapu Koko take maybe about a third of its health from that Dazzling Gleam in the last turn as a double target, which means that with the special attack boost it just got from that knockout, it'll certainly be able to get a KO on the Tapu Koko. If Sebastian has something up his sleeve to make this work out, he really needs it.
Yep, and there's the attack into the Politoed. The Politoed to protect, and Mana Buzz's foul play, that should not be enough to KO the Tapu Koko. It hangs on, and here we go, a Dazzling Gleam gonna connect onto both Pokemon. Is enough to KO the Xurkitree. Xurkitree gets KO'd, super effective on that Mana Buzz. But again, I think that Life Orb is enough to KO the Tapu Koko as well. So Mana Buzz on the field remaining for Sam, and Politoed on the field remaining for Sebastian. And here we go, one more Pokemon to be revealed on Sam's side. It is going to be that Ninetales, going to go ahead and remove the threat of the rain. So no more rain boosted Scalds here. You know, Freeze Dry is an option for that Ninetales.
It's really interesting that Sam decided to use the Thunderbolt onto the Politoed rather than going with the Dazzling Gleam as a safer play. While it would have been, you know, unfortunate that the Politoed wouldn't have been knocked out that turn, he could have guaranteed the knockout on the Tapu Koko before the Tapu Koko could potentially retaliate and knock out the Xurkitree. So, you know, Sam's really put himself into a bit of a tough spot. It is 2 versus 1, and without the rain boost, that Politoed won't be able to do that much damage.
An Aurora Veil comes out. so that's going to be reducing the amount of damage done. Mandibuzz goes for a taunt here. Polytoad can't do anything but be forced to attack, and Polytoad can't go for the Perish Song, which was really Sebastian's out at that point.
Yeah, so Polytoad having that Perish Song did give Sebastian an opportunity. Polytoad being one of the slowest Pokemon on the field would have gone last in terms of how Perish Song determines turn order, which means that Sebastian would have been given the win, but if Polytoad can stick around long enough, maybe for that taunt to wear off, maybe to knock out the Mandibuzz, it's possible that Perish Song can still be a viable out.
Yep, and instead, Polytoad goes for that Scald onto that Ninetales, doing a little bit of chip damage. And again, the Tailwind is going to peter out, and of course, the Hail is slowly crashing down. So Polytoad, the options really are KO that Mandibuzz, prevent the taunt from coming out, and then somehow surviving a... Oh, it looks like Sebastian has just forfeited the match. Sam Pandelis of Australia is going to go ahead and move on to the top 4, and look at those two players embrace each other. You know, the friendship and the camaraderie is so awesome to see here in this community. Well played set from both players. Sam Pandelis of Australia, just coming off to such a dominant start. That circuitry just snowballing immediately with that Thunderbolt in that Golduck, getting that Beast Boost, and then game 2, Sebastian Escalante, of course, retaliating, kind of, let's knock out that circuitry. Let's not let it do anything.
Yeah, Circuitry, I think, is one of the more situational Ultra Beast Pokemon. It doesn't really find a spot on many teams, but when it does, it can certainly do its job very well. And this was the matchup that I think allowed Sam to showcase its role. Being able to use the electric terrain, being able to terrify rain teams that are opposing it is really just a great opportunity for Sam to sort of, use the rain to his own benefit.
Yeah, and wow.
Yeah, I know, right?
That I thought that Buzzwole would outspeed that Circuitry since it did. Oh no, sorry, the Circuitry just went up for a Tail Glow in that previous game, so that Circuitry just outspeeding and getting all those knockouts. Sebastian was just in a